You are watching Channel Adrian TV.
Yo, YouTube, what up? Welcome back to Channel Adrian TV, and y'all know me as Adrian. But before we get into today's video, y'all know what we need to do. Subscribe to the channel, like and comment on the videos. Also follow me on Rumble where I post, and if you see anything you want me to react to, sports, the dynamics between men and women, or an Ask Adrian question about your own personal life, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can hit me up on one of my social media platforms. They'll be pinned in the description. First and foremost, y'all, welcome to another video. Before we even get started, I just want to say I appreciate all the support. I hope y'all continue, to subscribe and like the videos to help me go through the algorithm. Now, with this video, I had a lot of comments on certain shorts and some comments on certain videos. I wanted to fully explain because it's hard to explain certain pieces of content, especially if it's in a short. And also, some people gave me some good questions and I wanted to give them more insight of what I mean. So I'm going to play a few videos and then go over a few commenters' comments and talk about what I mean or respond to their comments. Now, the first video I'm going to play talks about how I don't really like hanging around men who lie to women. I'm going to play the short first and then I'm going to go over the comments. The reason I don't hang out with men that lie to women is because that lets me know by them being honest or being truly themselves, they cannot keep that woman there. And I mean on anything. Like, if you're right, you shouldn't have to lie to say that you're right just to make someone feel better. If you have to do that, that lets me know she doesn't respect you. So you have to lie. So men and women, this is why I do not hang around men who have to lie to keep their woman around, to keep their girlfriend happy or wife happy. You should always be honest. And we always say we want the truth in relationships. But the more I get older, I'm starting to realize that's a lie. Most relationships are built off lies. As you've seen the video, so let's go over a few commenters' comments about that. One commenter said, "One thing I cannot hang around with is women who want the truth but can't take it." And I agree with that. To me, if you're going to build a relationship with someone, regardless of who it is, it should be off the truth. I don't want to build a relationship off lies, and I don't want to build a family off lies. That's just how I am. And if we can't be honest, even about the difficult things, I don't think this is going to last long. Now, I know that varies for each person, but I do agree with that commenter. If a woman wants the truth, I'm going to tell her the truth, but you have to be able to accept it. And I have to accept her truth as well. If she's being honest, I need to accept that as well. I wanted to make sure y'all understand, like, this isn't a battle of the sexes. It's a two-way street. Another commenter said, "LOL, okay. I'm assuming you have no friends. You're lying right now. WTF." Yeah, I have a small group of friends, especially men friends that I would hang around. And like I said in the video, if you have to lie to keep her happy, that means there's a respect factor that's not there. And I don't know if you heard the saying, I'd rather hang with 2 lions than a dozen sheep. In other words, I like hanging with men that I respect. And if your girlfriend or wife doesn't respect you when you're right and you have to lie, there's a respect issue that's not there. And that's what I mean by that. I don't like, how can I put this? I don't like hanging around weak or soft men. And to me, you are a weak and soft man if you have to lie to keep your relationship happy or to keep her there. I'd rather her just leave if I have to lie. And let me give you a better example. Just for the sake of discussion, let's just say I'm discussing with her 2 + 2 = 4. We all know 2 + 2 = 4. But let's just say she's screaming saying it's 5 and it's 5, it's 5, it's 5. So let's just say I cave in and I say, you know what, it is 5. You're right, I'm wrong. And she starts to be in a better mood. See, it's even hard for me to even fathom saying that because I would feel so much less of a man and less of a person. If I have to do that to be in a relationship with someone, I'm just gonna leave. I do not want to be in a relationship with a grown child because at that point, to me, that's what it sounds like. Another commenter said, "Basically, you need to keep on telling the truth why she lies her teeth off. Most of the time, everybody needs to be accountable for their actions." No, I hold her accountable. And this is why I said context, because in a short, you really can't talk about it that long. Because with that comment, yeah, everybody needs to be accountable for their actions. But number one, if she's lying and I know she's lying, why am I there? That doesn't make any sense. But like I said, it's a two-way street. Woman, if you're watching this and the man is lying to you, you should leave as well. I wouldn't hang with a woman that's lying to me. Now, let me go a little bit more in depth, because I don't know if you're talking about female friends. I don't hang out with female friends. I have female friends, absolutely. But any woman I'm hanging out with, it's more on the romantic level. Now, if it's like a party or a get together, I may go. That's the only time I'll hang out with female friends. But if it is anything outside of that, I only hang out with women that I'm dating romantically, if that makes any sense. I think it's a waste of time for me to hang out with female friends when I have all these goals. It doesn't mean that women are less than. It's just that if you have all these goals and there's only so much time, why am I wasting my time hanging out with female friends? Unless it's in a party gathering or social gathering, I could use my time a lot better focusing on my business or dating, spending time with women that I'm into romantically, if that makes any sense. If you don't understand, comment on it again and I'll elaborate more. Some other commenters kind of were on that as saying, have you lost your mind by not bringing up women who lie the most? Don't tell me you never saw Maury, stop it. That's what I'm saying. He caters, that's all, spewing stuff into the air. Yawn emoji. Just like I just said, I would never hang out with a woman that I'm dating romantically that lies, because that's the only time I really hang out with women. I don't, I have female friends, but especially when you get older, I don't know how young you are or old you are, but once you get older and you start having responsibilities and goals, you're not gonna have all this time to hang out with people if you're really driven about certain goals. So with my female friends, I don't hang out with them, but like I don't hang out with them. Like I don't call them, say, hey, let's go get a bite to eat. The only women I'm do that with is women I am dating romantically, or just keep it a buck with you having sex with. And this commenter said, men lie to women to keep the peace. Lying an absolute necessary to making them feel better. And that's why I use a 2 + 2 = 4 example. That's why I would never stay with a woman like that. That lets me know I get no play and I have no options, and I'm so much of a loser. I have to lie to keep a woman happy, to keep the peace. If I have to do all that, I'll just leave. I'm not staying. And some of you may be saying, well, Adrian, what about the divorce rules in America and how the laws are? Well, that's why I said I would never get legally married with the state. I don't mind marriage and I believe in relationships, but until they improve the divorce laws in the USA, I would never get legally married through the state. Now, the next video, I talked about men and women should vet their partner, and I talked about a certain situation. I'm going to play the short, and then I'm going to read the comments. Men, it's very important to vet your woman before you either get married, build a family, or whatever you want in life. The reason I say that is because I recently ran into someone I knew at the Nike outlet, and she's recently married and has a child by this man. Now, she was talking about my YouTube videos, and she was like, Adrian, I love your videos about how you talk about obesity. I don't agree with obesity. Now, her husband made a face like this, and I was making that face too in my mind, but I didn't say anything. Her husband was obese. So I'm pretty sure he was thinking, if you don't agree with obesity, why did you marry me and have a kid with me? And honestly, I think from that point on, he understood that he was not one of her top options. She settled for him because the men that she did want, aka the men that were in shape, wouldn't wife her. I think that's why it's important to vet the woman that you're going to date and build a family with, because I'm pretty sure with that statement, he was hurt by. Now, one commenter said, or she chose to marry him because she loves him, not because she couldn't have other options, or even if she doesn't agree with obesity, it doesn't mean she doesn't love her man. She doesn't agree with his unhealthy lifestyle. See, the last part you said is very telling, and the most important thing. Here's my thing. I believe you have to set the example for your kids. You can't get mad if your kids are obese and broke and bad with money if you are. The parents set the example. So since y'all can tell I'm into fitness, I would never build a family with a woman who does not take fitness seriously as well. I'm not saying she has to go to the gym and run 20 miles a day. What I'm saying is she needs to understand calorie count and, exercising and watching her weight. If we want our kids to be healthy, we need to set the example. That's an example I already set. So any woman I want to build a family with, she needs to do the same thing as well. Because if I want my child, regardless if it's son or daughter, to be healthy, I need to set the example. How can I set the example if the mother of my children is obese? I can't. Another commenter said, through sickness and health, everyone's DNA is different with hormones added to these foods. This is primary reason for people not being able to lose the weight, especially with changes as we get older. Most times it may not be gluttony, it's our DNA. That's true, but there is a saying, what is not measured can't be tracked. There is an app called MyFitnessPal, and you could track your macros and your calories. If you hit your macros, which are your proteins, carbs, and fats, and your caloric intake you need for that day, you will either gain weight, maintain, or lose weight. It's really that simple. It's just that, let's just call a spade a spade. People are too lazy to track it. It's no different than when people come in it's no different to how people don't track their finances. And then at the end of the year, they're wondering why they still broke. Where did all their money go? Well, if you're not tracking it monthly, what do you expect? The same thing applies to weight. If you're not tracking, you're not going to lose any weight or see your body change. And the only thing I hate about this is, of course, no one loses the same amount of weight at a certain calorie. Like, in other words, me and somebody, we could be the same height, same weight, but for me to lose weight, I need to eat 2,100 calories and that person needs to eat 2,300. That's why it's important to track. I hate how people use that as a cop-out. If you're not tracking your calories, you're not going to know. Another commenter said, any chance she may have been hinting to her husband that she wanted him to do something about his weight? And then another commenter responded, she might have been, but she could have shown more respect for her spouse and talked with him privately about it. If she's never said anything to him about it before, then not only suddenly say something in public, but to an influencer that she admires, that would be degrading and impact the relationship in a detrimental way. Thank you. That is why I said it's important to vet, because like I said in that video, the man is thinking logically, okay, if you don't agree with obesity, why did you marry me? I'll give you another example. Let's just say if I married a woman and built a family with this woman, but she doesn't believe in interracial dating, and she sees someone and she says, you know what, that video about interracial dating, how you don't agree with it, I agree with you. And then I would make that same face. I'd be like, hold on. You don't agree with interracial dating, but you had a child with me and a family. I would be gone. And that's what I mean. That's why it's important to vet and to have these conversations. Because I recently talked to my brother and his wife this past Christmas about the content I post, and they had their judgments about it. And I said, hold on, let's talk context. That's why I always do these things in context. But I know with shorts, it's a little bit tougher to do that. But when we went into context and we talked about it, they agreed with me and I agreed with them. That's why I say this isn't a battle of sexes. All this is just to give men and women scenarios. So when you're in this world, you understand these things and analyze these things for what's best for you. Because if I had a son or daughter, these same scenarios, I would sit them down with my wife and we would discuss them so they understand what's going on and how to pick best for them in the best situation. Now, I already know people are gonna say, well, Adrian, parents aren't doing that anymore. I know why. Number one, because a lot of the parents' relationships are built off lies. And then number two is because parents aren't parenting anymore, which is unfortunate. Now, I have another video and it talked about I had a short of why a majority of women think men's meat size is small, because it was a short from a longer video I did about how a woman said any man who works out a lot has a small meat. I said she's correct, but not correct in her reasoning. Let me play the short and then I'll get back to you with the commenters' comments. And this woman made a video that went viral saying, Most men that work out, they work out because they have a small package. So let me play the video first, read a few comments, and I'll tell you why she's right. But she's not right because of the gym. She's right because of something else. So let me play the video, and then I'll go into more detail of why she actually is right, but wrong in her reasoning onto why that is.
But I like my men out of shape. If I see that you got too many muscles, I'm going to feel like you trying to go to the gym to replace something downstairs that's not growing. I done seen it too many times. These men be trying to make up for what they ain't got downstairs at that gym. So if I see you doing too much at the gym, I'm going to feel like you trying to replace that. I'm going to feel like you ain't got nothing going on downstairs.
Okay, now one commenter said, average doesn't mean the majority of men that are that size. People don't understand how this works. The ratio split is where the real numbers lay. If it was 50% at 10 and 50% at 1, your average would be 5. That would mean half the men are 10 in that scenario. Average is just the math. It's not the actual size you're going to experience. That's true, but what I'm saying is the average men's size is 4 to about 5.5 from the studies that I've seen. It's no different to where you may not done the study yourself, but when you look at how tall men are, most men are either 5'9" or 5'10". That's the average. And other commenters responded to that comment before I even get to it. One commenter said, I read that a vast majority of men are in 4 to 6 range. Someone bigger than 6 is 1 in a 10 occurrence. I agree with that. That's why I said in that video that men that are 6 inches or more, that they tend to be in the 16%. So in other words, most men that have over 6 inches tend to run the range on just only being 16% of all men. Another commenter said, you are dealing with the curve though. Most will be found near the center of the curve. In other words, most things will regress to the mean, aka the law of averages. That's why I said from multiple of these studies, most men range from 4 to 5.5, but the average from most studies is 5.1. Another commenter said, you're literally using the statistic fallacy right now, LOL. Anyone knows anything about statistics knows you don't factor in outliers. But you know, hopefully he understands what I mean. Of course, not all men have size is 5.1, but if you would take the majority of men, most sizes are going to regress to the mean. So in other words, 5.1 to 5.5. That's what I'm saying. So to the commenters, thanks for responding to that comment before I even get to it, because you pretty much answered it for me. Now, this one commenter, I'm not going to play the video because it's come from one of my longer videos, not the short. But I'll put the video up and leave it in the description if you're interested in watching it. It's titled Why Do Women Settle? So let me read the commenter's comment. When you say hooked up, does that mean you had sex with a woman you really don't know? If so, why? Also, why would she have sex with a nice guy she doesn't know? Then you just part ways. Okay, so that's a loaded question. So when I say hooked up, that means sex. But you're saying, why would she part ways with a nice guy? In other words, how I've said in numerous videos, women put men in 2 categories. The relationship guy and the fun guy. It's very rare you gonna get both in the same guy. That's a conundrum that women often find in dating. This guy turns me on sexually, but he doesn't treat me the way the nice guy does. And so I even said in that video, because of how I am, my demeanor, I'm not tatted, most women will put me in the Russell Wilson nice guy category. So in other words, she thought I was going to save her. In other words, be her cleanup man. But once I peeped game and see how she was, she knew that I wasn't going to save her. In other words, wife her up. That in layman's terms. And that's why I said when she got to know me and hanging around and we started to date, she understood, you're not a simp. You just like them, but you just don't have tats and you're not toxic. That's why I said that, because she thought I was the nice guy that will come save her. Now, I'm still very nice, but since I peep game and I'm experienced and I'm aware, more men who are labeled the nice guy are seeing this more. So I would say in my generation more so than ever, men like me aren't being the cleanup men anymore, if you get what I mean. If you don't get what I mean, comment on this video and I will go more into depth about it. So y'all, that's it. I want to say I appreciate all the support and all the comments. I will do more videos reacting to comments in the future, but if you have any rebuttal or any response to what I said, please feel free to leave a comment and I will definitely respond back to you. Thank you for all the support. Y'all remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.